What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActionMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And this year is the 30th anniversary of Quiz Show. So we're talking about it. I got this movie in the Apple Store for like $5. Has audio description done by Deluxe, narrated by the late Ron Snow. He sounds excellent on this. Uh, just, just great. Just a great voice. Ron Snow just had such an amazing uh, presence in this film. Anyway, so an Academy Award nominee coming out in 1994 for that never really stood a chance. When you're a film coming out of 1994 that's not Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, or The Shawshank Redemption, it's really hard to get people to try to remember that you exist. But yeah, Quiz Show was actually one of the 5 Best Picture nominees that year. It was also nominated for Best Director and Supporting Actor and Screenplay. So had a couple of the major nominations, but it's definitely not the film that people took away from 1994. However, I liked it, and it has audio description. We're going to talk about it. I am wearing my purple baseball cap on today with black sunglasses, and I think I've got a Falcon and Winter Soldier t-shirt on today. So, has nothing to do with Quiz Show, but I always like to try to say what I'm wearing for my blind audience. So what is going on with Quiz Show? Well, it's based on the true story of a cheating scandal that rocked the nation with a game show called 21, where people were being fed answers to questions, and the producers were essentially determining how long people would stay on the show. It'd be sort of like if you found out that Ken Jennings didn't really answer 73 days worth of questions to stay on Jeopardy, and then the level of betrayal. And it all starts out with, at the beginning, we have our Herbert Stemple, played by John Tuturro, is the reigning champion, and he's being told that he should take a dive because the ratings have plateaued on him, and they need a new champion. And so the producers, played by David Paymer and Hank Azaria, go out and hand choose this sort of like wealthy, aristocratic English professor, Charles Van Dorn, who, from a wealthy family, and he's good looking and everything. And there's a lot of stuff here about Jew versus Gentile, and so they ditch the Jew for the Gentile and pick up Charles Van Dorn, played by Ray Fiennes, who is just super excited about the opportunity. He knows nothing about the cheating scandal. He thinks he's going to legitimately be on the show. And they try to offer it to him, and he's like, "No, let me just answer the questions." He's like, "I'm an academic. I'm a professor. I'm good with this." And there's a moment at which he realizes that the thing has been set up for him, that, and you can tell that he's trying to figure out, do I want to make this choice? Do I want to go down this path? And ultimately he does. And that's the thing that everybody keeps saying, is it's like when somebody offers this to you, you take it, right? Like everybody takes it. So like, who wouldn't? So, it's easy to say on the outside looking in, but when it's offered to you, do you take it? Because obviously everybody else has. So it just seems like an easy ask, So he ends up becoming the new champion of 21. Herbert takes the dive, and he was basically promised, like a future in television doing other things. That's not true. And he ends up, getting upset and starting to cause noise. Meanwhile, we've got Rob Morrow playing like an investigator coming out of our legislative branch, like an actual congressional appointee who's looking into this, regulating TV stuff. And he sees that there's this uh, court case that's happened, and it draws his attention, and it brings him in, and he starts trying to find anybody who will talk to him about 21. Of course, we know eventually he'll get to Stemple, who will not be silenced. But he also gets to Charles Van Doorn, and the two become fast friends, and they meet his father, who is played by the only person to actually get an Oscar nomination out of this film, Paul Scofield. And that's basically the plot. It just kind of devolves into, how history wrote the story and remembers 21 today, and really how it shaped and changed quiz shows moving forward. And that loss of trust in television, and really how far things went, and who came out on top and who got hurt, and anybody really ever lose out of this situation. Like, what did we lose, what did we gain? There's a quote that Paul Scofield gives when he's talking to Ray Fiennes about the concept of cheating at a quiz show. He's like, why would anybody do that? It's like plagiarizing a comic strip. He sees it as being just so bizarrely unnecessary. Like, it's not highbrow to him. He's somebody who comes from this overly educated, very waspy set of life goals. So to him, the idea that anybody would want to, he can't even conceive it. He's not even really somebody who watches TV. And in the beginning, he has a conversation with his son, and he's who's like, did you watch? And he's like, no, I didn't. So the fact that he by the end is actually watching, and really just can't stand the tension, just goes to show how well done the producers are making the show, because that's how, like, everyone feels. Like, they get in it and they're like, oh my god, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna get the answer right? Is he gonna do it? So this also has Mira Sorvino, before she kind of broke out later on with her Academy Award win for Mighty Aphrodite a few years later. This is her sort of warming up to that. She's in the supporting cast. A big enough name that's worth mentioning, I should say. So also Christopher McDonald is in here. He plays the host of the TV series. So a couple more names for people to remember. What's really interesting about this film is just sort of its awards trajectory. It's a tough year for this film. 1994 was a great year for film. And it had a hard time standing out. But you can see it kind of getting picked up pretty much everywhere. Like, everybody kind of agrees it deserves to be on a list. Like, pretty much everybody has it for picture. It's on the NBR list of the top 10. It got its Golden Globe, BAFTA, Oscar, Best Picture nominations. A lot of people gave Redford a nomination. But what's really interesting is you start seeing, and almost everyone nominated the screenplay, even when it's not nominated in director or picture. Like, across the board, the screenplay was the most lauded thing that this thing has, as Best Adapted Screenplay, where it actually won a bunch of awards. So, but the big competition here, and this is where I feel like the film kind of divided for me, is, and the thing that I would change if I could, in time travel, is there was a little bit of a battle in supporting actor, and a tight supporting actor race. Because remember, again, this is what I said, this is 1994 film, so we're up against Forrest Gump, which was Gary Sinise. You're up against Pulp Fiction, which is Samuel L. Jackson. You're up against Shawshank Redemption, which is Morgan Freeman. You're up against some powerhouse supporting actor performances. Still with that, though, they nominated Paul Scofield, which feels to me like you just nominated the actor instead of the performance. If you're nominating the performance, you nominate John Tuturro. And there are a lot of critics guilds that nominated John Tuturro. John Tuturro managed a Golden Globe nomination. So, but when you're trying to check off a box and say, well, Paul Scofield deserves an Oscar nomination in his lifetime, that's when you start getting into the weeds. So the best thing that I could say is what it's like would be, because this is sort of towards the beginning of John Turturro's career. He's still considered a young actor at this point. I know it sounds weird nowadays to say that John Turturro was ever a young actor, but this is kind of towards the beginning of his career. Technically, he has top billing. He's the first name listed in Quiz Show before Ray Fiennes. But I think there might be an order of appearance because I don't know that he has significantly more screen time than Ray Fiennes. I think Ray Fiennes kind of beats him, but anyway. Yeah, so he it would be like in Gladiator, if we, instead of nominating Joaquin Phoenix, if we had nominated like Derek Jacobi instead, because we're like, oh well, Derek, classic actor, old man, deserves the nomination. I mean, Derek's still alive, but and I actually think he's in Gladiator 2, so maybe he will get a nomination. Maybe they'll pull a Paul Scofield for him, and all of a sudden we keep thinking it's going to be Denzel, and it ends up being Derek, so. But yeah, I mean, there are opportunities like that, and that's kind of what I was saying about the Fabelmans, is it's like, we kind of did that with Judd Hirsch instead of Paul Dano. And it's like, I don't know that history is going to look back on that nomination and be like, that was the right choice. Because you kind of look at this and you're like, yeah, Paul Scofield's good, but John Turturro is definitely deserving of the nomination for the film. Probably like the standout performance is John Turturro. If you were to pick a performance, his character changes a lot and morphs, and he's got levels and layers, and really, the other is just sort of like a measured performance and well delivered, and playing that sort of like upper crust, but very flat, very just sort of the same. Paul Scofield, it doesn't really do much evolution or much changing. He has, again, this is a great script and he reads it well, and he benefits from that. But Tuturro is really the standout performance. So I would swap those. That's my thought. I've seen Quiz Show a couple times now throughout my lifetime. And I'm always sort of like, that's always kind of the thing for me, is I'm like, it's always politics with Oscars, though, so somebody like John Tuturro, who are like, well, he's got more films, let's give it to Paul Scofield. Okay. I mean, why don't we always just give it to like the old actors then? Always give it to like the oldest person in the cast and be like, well, they're gonna tap out soon, so. Yeah, anyway, Quiz Show. It's excellent. Lots of great performances. It's such an interesting change for Ray Fiennes. And I love how, everybody lauds his performance in Schindler's List, which he just did the previous year for playing creepy. And then he comes here and he's playing like the most likable, affable, charming gentleman ever. And people are, like, he's still like, nobody nominated him for anything. They're just like, this isn't easy. We want you to do that other thing that you do really well. He's good. There's no reason to not. It's just the same as Rob Morrow. And I was thinking with Rob Morrow, I was like, what happened to Rob Morrow? He was doing good. He was doing good work. It just kind of faded away. It just poof. Didn't he do Numbers? And then like he just like nothing after Numbers? That was it? Anyway. So if you haven't checked out Quiz Show, check it out, because as a film, it's an excellent slice of life, a look at the past, the perfect telling of the story. Robert Redford directs the hell out of this. Just tells, like, beginning to end, he knows exactly how to do this. It's well edited in terms of there's never like a lull, you're never like, oh, I'm bored, you know. It's a little over 2 hours, but it's really paced well, which we don't give enough credit to nowadays. But yeah, this is really good pacing. It's interesting. It's exciting. It's not really incendiary. It's something anybody could watch. It's just clean, I guess is what I'm saying. It's just, I don't know, it's just a really good movie. And I would say it's standing the test of time, because I think when people watch Quiz Show, it still works. I don't think it's stopped working. I don't think it's a film that has aged out. I don't think it's something that hasn't aged well. Luckily it doesn't have, it's not starring some actor who got canceled, so it's not something that's like making you feel uncomfortable. Yeah, everything works about this film. So it's definitely done what it needs to earn its 30th anniversary celebration. Yay! And the audio description from Ron Snow is just so on point, just perfect. I love his voice. The man could do anything, and when I found out he passed away, I was just like, oh no. And he's been gone for a few years, but I did not know until somebody told me. I was like, oh, damn. Just such a great voice, such a great presence. When you hear him on in the film and in narration, it's such a nice, comforting voice, that seems to like transcend genre. Like, he's great sort of in anything. I don't think he'd be great for little kids. That'd be the one thing. I wouldn't give him like a kid's movie. I feel like he'd be a little bit much for kids. But other than that, I think, yeah, he's pretty much right for any adult genre. Comedy might be weird, but then again, he might also have comedic timing that I'm unaware of. So that's it. That's Quiz Show. I'm really happy with it overall. Obviously, somebody went back and put the audio description on there. It sounds newer than the film, which is fine, but obviously not that new, because Ron Snow hasn't been around for a few years. So at some point between 94 and like 2020, they went and added audio description to Quiz Show. So, yes, I'm going to give Quiz Show an A. It's not quite a desert island film for me, but it's also a film that I've seen, I love, can't really find flaws. My biggest flaw is just in how the Oscars nominated. It's not that Paul Scofield does a bad job. It's like, I understand it's a tight year, and if you only have one nomination for Quiz Show, I just think the nomination has to be John Tuturro, and I don't know how you don't nominate John Tuturro for this film. I don't get that. So, anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.